If you're paying this much for car insurance, there's a good chance you're either overpaying or you don't actually understand what you're buying. In the next few minutes, I'm going to explain car insurance in plain English so you can stop wasting money and avoid expensive mistakes. Most people buy car insurance the same way they buy random subscriptions. They pick, the cheapest option, click a few buttons, and just hope for the best. Then an accident happens, and suddenly you realize what you thought was covered isn't. I talk to people all the time who think they have full coverage, but they don't even know what it actually means. So let's just keep this simple, okay? No, at its core, car insurance is just financial protection. You pay a monthly premium, and in exchange, the insurance company helps cover certain costs after accidents, damage, death, or just injuries. But here's what most people get confused. Not everything is automatically covered. Your policy is basically like Lego pieces. Different pieces protect different things. Very common coverage is liability coverage. Very important. It's the coverage that protects your banking account. Liability coverage pays for damage for injuries that you cause to other people, whether it's medical or physical damage of their personal property. To break it down simple, this could be damage to another car, medical bills, property damage. Let's say you're driving, you rear end somebody, and liability will kick in and basically pay for the damages that are inflicted on their car. Now, this is important because state minimum coverage is usually not enough, no matter what state you're in. At least specifically Texas, we have certain limits, and that basically we have 30,000 for bodily injury for every person that's in the car. That's how much you'll cover for medical expenses. So if we hit someone, we'll cover at least that much. Anything over that, we have an overall limit of 60,000. So if you have 3 or 4 people and their medical expenses are over 60,000 in total, then you're responsible for the difference. Same thing for property damage. At least in Texas, ours is covered for up to 25,000. So let's be realistic. There's a lot of cars driving around easily over 30,000. So if you hit a vehicle that is within that range, then you're going to be the one responsible for having to pay that out of pocket. And if you can't, people can sue you, and they can even garnish your wages, your future wages. So get a percentage of what you make every check. I know I don't want that. So a lot of people think that minimum coverage means good coverage, but it doesn't. It just means that it's legally acceptable. So now we get into collision coverage. This is what saves you after an accident. And collision coverage basically helps repair your car after a crash. So after hitting another car, backing into a pole, or just a single car accident, it happens. So without collision coverage, you could probably pay thousands of dollars out of pocket to repair your vehicle, especially like if you have to deal with it having like a bank loan, like a lien, then you would be responsible for that. The bank wants their money, they want their assets. So technically, that's why when you do finance a car, that's why they require collision coverage because they want your vehicle to be covered in an event that you get into an accident. Which sounds obvious, but I've talked to people on the phone that have literally have a car that's financed and does not have full coverage on it. They have a liability, which is very dangerous.
What?
But that's a whole other story in itself. You do have certain deductibles that come in play. Now, that's basically meaning that how much you're going to pay out of pocket before the insurance company covers a majority of the actual repair cost. Let's say you get into an accident, it's just a minor accident, and it's about $7,000 in repair costs for that vehicle. Now, your deductible is typically anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Now, it just depends on the situation that you're in and how much you can actually pay out of pocket. Usually, if you get $1,000 deductible, it's a lower rate because you're paying a little bit more out of pocket for the repair costs. But the monthly premium is lower because of that. Versus getting a $500 deductible, you're obviously gonna have to pay more because you're taking less risk, which is okay, depending on your preference. So that's how deductibles are set up. Speaking of another coverage, this is where we roll into comprehensive. That is something that's also important because that covers for things that are out of your control. So, for example, theft, hail damage, fire, flooding, or just accidentally hitting an animal. It happens. Now, those are things you just can't predict. So, if a hailstorm destroys your car, that's not collision, that's comprehensive. Now, that does also have a deductible as well. Pretty much the same thing, either a $500 to $1,000 deductible. Now, let's talk about the most understood phrase in insurance. Drop the beat, please. Just drop it. Drop it. So it's full coverage. Now, to be real with you, that's actually no official policy that any insurance company has ever called full coverage. Like it just it's not it's a myth. And usually people mean liability, collision, and comprehensive. But even with full coverage, there's still things that are not covered. Examples are mechanical breakdowns, wear and tear, personal belongings, certain exclusions. This is why understanding your policy matters more than just picking a price. Now, here's how smart people actually lower their insurance costs. First, it starts with comparing multiple quotes. Never shop one company. Now, step two is comparing the same coverages. Otherwise, you're comparing inaccurate rates that aren't going to be apples to apples, knowing exactly what coverage you need and getting the same quote, but just different premiums. Because each company has a different rating, so that's why it's good to look around. Now, raising deductibles strategically, as I mentioned, keeping it anywhere from 500 to 1,000. That's how you can get an idea of which premium would be appropriate based on the situation you're in. And it's only if you can afford it. That's step three. So step three is raise your deductible strategically, only if you can afford it. Now, step four, ask about discounts. There's a lot of discounts if you're a safe driver, if you have multiple things you need to cover, so auto insurance, home insurance, or other policies, you get a discount for. Sometimes if you have multiple cars, you get a discount for that as well. You also get a discount, obviously, for being like a good student if you go to school, and you can basically be able to get a discount for that. And then you also get a discount for sometimes having low mileage. The less you drive, the better rate you get. So people stay overinsured, underinsured, or overpriced for years and not even realize it because they never review their policy, or they just don't have an agent that is willing to check in with them and give them renewal updates. Let's simplify everything in 20 seconds. Liability, what does it do? Protects other people, protects your pocket from people suing you and taking your wages, taking your assets. Next coverage, collision. That protects your property, your vehicle, and is able to give you an opportunity to repair your car. Next coverage is comprehensive. As it sounds, coverage for things that are out of your control. Very important because you never know if you're going to get into an accident, and it could just be you hitting a pole in accident, and hey, that's going to be covered. It'll cover your vehicle. And sometimes you can even, depending on how bad the damages are, can even give you the opportunity to buy another vehicle because of how severe the accident is. But that's a whole story in itself as well. So deductibles, that's the next important coverage, and that's, as it sounds, paying your portion of the risk to go ahead and let the insurance company deal with the majority of the risk. Full coverage, as we discussed, it's a myth. Not a, it's never, you're never gonna get everything you need unless you review each individual coverage and know which one is the most important to you. So if you made it this far, you understand the basics of car insurance, and it's more than most people can say. And that's because most people aren't willing to educate themselves, aren't willing to learn enough on how they can get a policy that can protect them and not also overpay, because it's just all about doing the research. And that's what I'm here for, to educate you, to give you a little bit more guidance, so you're able to make a better decision with getting insurance that is important to you, but also you get what you pay for. So if you're not sure whether you're overpaying or if your coverage actually makes sense, I'll leave resources below to help you review your policy, because the goal isn't just to get a cheaper policy. It's making smarter insurance decisions.